So this is my newest acquisition to complete my setup with it's an 8444A tracking generator option 59, and that's meant to go with my 8568B spectrum analyzer, and which I have now repaired. I also have here my synthesized generator that which we'll use later. And actually, this is from a generation before. Those two are not made to go together, but this was retrofitted with option 59, so it would kind of work. So the option 59 has an extra 500 megahertz local oscillator, which just you loop back to itself with this cable at the back, and it goes into the third LO input, which this guy doesn't have a third LO, this guy doesn't have a third LO output, but it has the first LO output, which goes right here. And I was wondering how good that would be, and it's actually not that bad. Of course, that's after a little bit of adjustment. It didn't do like this when I got it. It's not fully adjusted yet, but look at that, this is pretty darn flat. 0 to 1.5 gig with the default everything. And so now if you want it perfectly flat, you can calibrate it out. You just do a line, where is it? Display line, and you put it over to the top. Right, and by the way, this knob here does 0 to minus 10 dB. Not very useful for the level. The track adjust, we'll talk about it later. And so that's at the minus 10 dB. And now you just switch to the B, and you just do B minus line. And of course that's the air line right here, and then you subtract it to A minus B, boom, and now it's flat like an arrow. And then this one you can blank it, so you can calibrate it out. And of course that's only doable for one span, but no, let's get out of calibration here. Let's go to the normal one. And so one thing that threw me off first, in the frequency span, let's go down to 100 megahertz. Still works fine. Look how flat it is just by itself. 10 megahertz, fine. Then 10 megahertz, you start to see it's going down a little bit, so I need to adjust it with that knob. It's just the frequency offset of the local oscillator in that guy, and it gets hairy when the bandwidth gets really low. I'll demonstrate that. And now frequency span, let's go back to 1 megahertz. Oops, and that happened. And what has happened is that you have to do shift T low, because in this machine, for whatever reason, I think for better precision of measurement, they shift the local oscillator frequency. So here I have to also readjust it. It gets more and more touchy until the resolution bandwidth gets to about a kilohertz. And for example, if I do resolution bandwidth here, I'm going to decrease it to 1, and 1 is about the max. I don't even know if you can do it with this setup. Whoop. 1 would work with this setup. Then so 1 kilohertz, that's not bad actually. It's spec'd for 10, and it's perfectly fine. If I do 300, then it becomes really hard to do it. By the way, we need only set lead time, so we can do a sweep time that's a lot faster. Go. No, it's still not bad. But if I switch out the oscillator for this 500 megahertz, which is of course a lot better, the 8662, then I can use it down to, see it starts to drift already, I can use it down to 300 hertz bandwidth, which is not bad at all. Okay, let's try it. So I'll unplug this guy, gone, and I'll use my 500 megahertz source. This is of course the hell of a better oscillator. It's hard to do with the camera in hand. Come on. Well, we'll assume it's good enough, so let's go back to a resolution bandwidth of something a little higher. And so now, same track adjust. Yep. And let's take the resolution bandwidth down to 300 hertz now, and see if we can. There you go. And that's perfectly usable down to 300 hertz resolution bandwidth, which is pretty amazing actually. Okay, so for fun I'm going to test something coming up. Right now I have nothing here. So for fun I have put a little quartz crystal here. It's an 11.059 megahertz quartz crystal, so fairly low frequency. Put the beautiful rugs here so that I don't scratch my counter. Those things are so heavy. When I was turning them over to calibrate them, it scratched all over. And so that's the output of the tracking generator, not even flattened. That's what comes out. Of course, that's on a fairly small set. We're at centered at 11 megahertz with a span of 100 kilohertz. But in the span of a frequency span of 1 megahertz, it's pretty darn good. 10 megahertz. There you go. Nice and flat, huh? So 100 kilohertz. It's a high quality tracking generator. I'm surprised. And let me put it in. Let me put the filter in. Alright, so here's my quartz crystal. And of course, I already adjusted everything, so I know what's going to be out. And look at that, here it goes. And let's figure out what's the resonance here. Click search, frequency count, boom, 11.569 as advertised. I spent a lot of time calibrating those back to the original specs. These are great instruments. So that's a really nice setup.